of the Paul Walker movie. Paul William Walker IV. He sounds like a king, doesn't he?
Please tell me.
Come
Tell me
out.
about the Mexican
Come
girl
out.
you dated.
Yeah.
That's
But,
amazing.
you know, I was like, this guy's cool. Like, I really like him. You know, and so
How is it now with him?
he's a G.
He's
doing,
a G?
Yeah.
Oh, you're definitely from San
Yeah.
Fernando Valley.
Yeah.
He's
Was an American actor, social activist, and philanthropist. His social activism and philanthropy stem from his help and support to injured people who survived horrific earthquakes. He even had his own humanitarian aid team. He was also very keen on UFC and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, too. Born 12th of September 1973 from Glendale, California, United States. So he's a Virgo like me. He tragically died on the 30th of November 2013, Valencia, California. Paul Walker died as a passenger in a single car crash alongside friend and driver Roger Rodas. This video is intended to honour and highlight such a talented actor we lost too soon. A lot of actors we've lost too soon.
Sure you want to do this?
A lot has changed.
We've recently just passed what would have been his 46th birthday, but he does live on in his daughter, Meadow Rain Walker. You'll know Paul Walker as Brian O'Connor in the Fast and the Furious franchise.
Yeah, bro, man, he like them apples. Show off. That's the Brian O'Connor school driving right there, baby.
And Joey Gazelle in Running Scared.
The gazelle! Come on! Wake up! Wake up! Come on! Stop the car, please! Stop!
Walker started his career back in 1986, a year famous for movies like Top Gun, Aliens, Platoon, Stand By Me and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. That was the year they were released. And Paul got his break playing a professor called Bennett in Monster in the Closet. Monster in the Closet. He was 10 years old here because the movie was shot 3 years before its release. So, hence the confusion you may have got from the year. Here's a picture of him, looking adorable. Aww. With his glasses on too. He has this look of Jonathan Lipnicki, you know, from Stuart Little, and Like Mike, to him here. He's got a strong resemblance to Jonathan Lipnicki. So the plot. After several people and a dog are found dead in their closets, a mild-mannered reporter, a college professor, his son, and a befuddled professor band together to uncover the mystery. Sounds like something for Scooby-Doo, doesn't it? The Mystery Gang. It was the film debut for both Paul Walker and Fergie from the Black Eyed Peas, Stacey Ann Ferguson.
And the bass keeps running, running, and 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 running, running, and...
Joining Walker and Fergie was horror icon John Carradine. As well as acting hero Henry Gibson, all in Monster in the Closet. Bob Dylan, not Bob Dylan, but Bob Darlin, wrote and directed.
Monster in the Closet.
He's actually known for producing D&D, or Dungeons and Dragons, in 2000. When Paul was a teenager, he actually appeared on a game show called I'm Telling. Newlywed game clone, only with siblings as the contestants. And here's another clip.
Paul, in your opinion, which of the two of you looks better on stage today, you or your sister?
This is serious?
Yeah, it's serious. It's right here, see?
Oh my gosh.
In your opinion. Well, but in your opinion, Who do you think looks better on stage today, you or Ashley?
Myself.
You, Ashley.
And a lot of people, and I included, and people in the comments section have just talked about how sweet he is in this and how much of a good brother he was. I think it's really nice and sweet. He must have loved game shows a lot being on TV, because he got into TV next with his Highway to Heaven. I'm not going to sing Highway to Hell for you from AC/DC, but this one is heaven, not hell.
Scotty and Diane, they're gonna be my family. They're gonna come and take me to their home. And I'm gonna live with them and be their little boy.
So, Highway to Heaven was actually one of his earlier works, even before 1986. This was 1985. First appearing as Eric Travers in an episode called Birds of a Feather, then reappearing in a two-parter as Todd Bryant, a probationary angel sent back to Earth, teams with an ex-cop to help people. So you know what to expect here. It's one of those uplifting, feel-good TV shows.
I hear you told him you don't want to be in Special Olympics because you said you can't do anything. Is that right?
Yeah.
See this baseball cap on my head?
Yeah.
It's pretty nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Why don't you take it off my head and try it on? Come on. Yeah, fits great. You keep it.
Thanks.
Now, this mention of Angel will reappear later on, actually, which is nice and fitting, really.
Look at this.
Oh yeah? Look at this.
Oh, yeah? Look at this.
Oh yeah? Look at this.
Michael Landon, known for Little House on the Prairie and I Was a Teenage Werewolf, so he created and starred in it.
Olympics coach, we'd sure like to have you come down and find out some other things you're good at.
I'm not good at nothing. I'm dumb.
Oh, I don't think you're dumb.
Then you're dumb.
I haven't been mean to you, Todd. Please don't be mean to me.
Then go away. I don't want to do nothing. I can't do nothing. And you can't make me.
You're right about that, son. I can't make you. You have to want to.
And you can really tell it's him, can't you? You really can. He hasn't changed a bit. Now, if you want to see a young Paul Walker, this is definitely the one for you.
Hi.
Next round, barman. A year later, 1987. Program to Kill. Program to Kill.
It gets up and kills. The people it kills get up and kill.
As Jason. His name was Jason.
His name was Jason.
No, not that Jason you might be thinking of. But Jason in Program to Kill. And quite fitting, actually, talking about it. But a Jason in a sci-fi action flick that we just named. A mercenary meets a woman terrorist turned to a killer cyborg by CIA surgeons. It does have this obvious Terminator rip-off to it. Yeah, people just love Terminator, so they used it for inspiration in this one. I just love his name, I love the title, I love the action. Walker headed straight back into television, and he would stay on TV solely for 7 years straight until this next movie. But we're going to focus on his telly roles first, before we get into his next movie. So, he got a full name, Jeremy Beatty. And weirdly enough, I think my family are called Beatty. On my dad's side, yeah, Beatty. In Throb sitcom. A sitcom called Throb.
Yeah, thanks for studying with me. Thanks for inviting me. I hope we pass the test. Me too.
Then he was Russell Davis in Charles in Charge. The theme tune I love to pieces. 1990.
Like he's one of the family. Charles in charge of our days and our lives. Charles in charge of our wrongs and our rights.
One episode of Charles in Charge called Dead Puck Society.
But I'd really like to keep seeing you. Because you're the most wonderful girl I've ever met.
A spin on one of the best movies of all time, in my opinion, Dead Poet Society, starring the late legend Robin Williams. That's Dead Puck Society. Charles in Charge was a very successful show of its time, and people will always remember the theme tune. 1991's Who's the Boss? Just one episode as Michael Haynes. Who's the Boss was known for starring Tony Danza. Written by Martin Cohen, who also wrote Different Strokes. Oh, it was Rick. 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 In What a Dummy. Also in 1991. Paul then joined the longest running American show, The Young and the Restless. It's called The Young and the Restless, but I always thought it was The Young and the Reckless. That sounds a bit better, but no, it is The Young and the Restless. It first aired in 1973, and there's been 43 seasons. The network was CBS, and it's a soap opera, and it's still running now, which beats me how it's crazy. So that's a good part to get into, really, for Paul at that time. Walker joined between 1992 and 1993. In 17 episodes, actually. 17 episodes as Brandon Collins. He put on his best suit, and he grew up fast for this role, actually, as well.
Ryan and I are divorced, or hadn't you heard? I'm telling you, Ryan, you better back off and leave the kid alone. You've already brought enough grief into her life. Brandon, why don't you just say what is really on your mind? Oh, and what's that supposed to mean? Come on, Brandon, you're as obvious as a lovesick puppy.
Like a lot of actors do, and I mean a lot of actors, like Vince Vaughn, Nicole Eggert, River Phoenix, Joaquin Phoenix, James L. Jones, Danny DeVito, and Martin Sheen, to name a select few. He too did a CBS school break special. Now they're fairly well known, the CBS school specials, and he did two of them actually. Love in the Dark Ages, 1994, and Dead Wrong, the John Evans story back in 1984. We're focusing on Love in the Dark Ages. He was Dill. Not the spice, not the herb. He was a real person, damn it.
Fucking nutcase. He may have advanced illusionary schizophrenia with involuntary narcissistic rage, but he is a very gentle person.
Hey, not until you guys stop talking about sex.
You tell me you're gonna miss this brat?
Now look, we gotta talk about cycles and temperatures.
Mom, I really gotta hit the road.
No, now for whites, you pre-soak and hot for colors warm and warm.
Right, warm.
Now sometimes you can go warm and cold, but never cold and cold. Jesse.
He was then in a pilot as Jesse Hansen. Now the pilot was called The Boys Are Back. The Boys Are Back, 1994. Which does make me sing Thin Lizzy's The Boys Are Back in Town. The same year.
Yeah. Drive slow, don't break any records.
Now, bye, sweetie.
Bye, Mom.
Wow.
Oh, condoms!
Tammy the T-Rex. I'm going to say that again in case you missed it. Tammy the T-Rex. which name alone should make you want to watch it. Or the front cover alone surely would make you want to watch this gem.
Late night phone calls.
I want you to come over. Yes!
This film was piggybacking on the success of Jurassic Park.
To Jurassic Park.
A year prior to this release. Jurassic Park was 1993, this was 1994, and it's what successful movies do. Shaun of the Dead, one of the most successful movies of all time, actually piggybacked on the remake of Dawn of the Dead, and I'd say Shaun of the Dead is better than Dawn of the Dead. It can be successful. So this came about. An evil scientist implants the brain of Michael, a murdered high school student, into a Tyrannosaurus. He escapes, wreaks vengeance on high school tormentors, and is reunited with his sweetheart, Tammy. Now that is just so mad. It's so crazy.
Boyfriend getting dumped in a wild animal park.
1996.
We now return to Touched by an Angel. Now, where exactly did the angel touch you?
Here?
Oh, come on! Who are you gonna believe? I got a freaking halo!
He got into Touched by an Angel. I told you the angel would return, and it did.
Fine, Jonathan. Yeah.
As Jonathan in an episode, Statute of Limitations, 1996. He actually looks really, really good in a suit, and he's going to prom, and that's all I'll give you before the clip, actually.
That's it, that's great. There you go. Alright, you kids have fun now.
Have fun.
Just remember to be home by midnight.
Now, after all that telly stuff, he finally got back into the movies. Meet the Deedles. Meet the Deedles, 1998. Biggest role so far, actually, in this comedy family film.
You want to cut one? A rug, I mean?
As Phil Deedle and his brother, Stu Deedle, played by Steve Van Wormer. So there are two fraternal twin brothers who are complete surf bums living in Hawaii off their wealthy single father. Now, two thrill seekers end up as Yellowstone Park Rangers and have to stop a former ranger who is out for revenge. Now, this was important because it was Walker's first Disney movie.
We brought out our camcorders and we were videoing each other.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Stuntman turned director Steve Boyum. Meet the Parents and Meet the Fockers writer Jim Hersfeld also wrote Meet the Deedles. He does like meat in the title, doesn't he? Meet the Parents, Meet the Fockers, Meet the Deedles. And I don't think there's a connection between them movies. We have an awesome cast from Walker and Wormer, but the incredible Dennis Hopper. And even more incredible, Robert Englund.
Welcome to my world, bitch.
That's worth a watch just off Robert Englund, really. If you have enjoyed this video so far, be sure to subscribe, like and comment. That'd be really nice of you. And also check out my evolution of the Freddy Krueger movie on this channel. If you can't find it, check out the playlist or just hit me a message on facebook.com/Richard Isles Radio Show. But back to Paulie Shaw. No, back to Paulie. It's all fun and wild in this film. It doesn't take itself too serious. It's fun for the family. Meet the Deedles. Same year, he was in Pleasantville as Skip Martin, the heartthrob, the hunk, the dude. Now, I really love the visual look of it. Switching from black and white to colour. You see this colour just seeping in every now and again, and it's gorgeous. He got to bump heads with an almighty cast. Tobey Maguire, Reese Witherspoon, William H. Macy, and Jeff Daniels. That's worth it. So two 1990s teenage siblings find themselves in a 1950s sitcom where their influence begins to profoundly change that complacent world.
In Pleasantville? No!
Really great idea for a plot. The chap who wrote Big, Seabiscuit and The Hunger Games also wrote Pleasantville. His name is Gary Ross. And it's a film any big Paul Walker fan has to watch, really. Especially if you've got the hots for him, then it's good to see him in a heartthrob role. Now, another big one came around, actually. So we had Pleasantville, then Varsity Blues, and then She's All That. It comes in threes, doesn't it? It comes in threes. We're going to focus on Varsity Blues now, and then She's All That later. So, Varsity Blues. Walker played Lance Harbour, and it was a second taste of a sports movie. First, if you discount Meet the Deedles, because he was a surfer. He played the West Canaan High School football team All-State starting quarterback. Try and say that twice as fast. He played the West Canaan High School football team All-State starting quarterback. Lance Harbour. The lead's best friend and a brother to Amy Smart's character, Jules. He has to earn a football scholarship to play for Florida State. I'd consider it a feel-good film, considering the ending, but I won't spoil it for you, you have to watch it. In Varsity Blues, Walker got to knock heads with John Voight, James Van Der Beek from Dawson's Creek. That rhymed. James Van Der Beek from Dawson's Creek. A backup quarterback is chosen to lead a Texas football team to victory after the star quarterback is injured. Now, there's been a few films which have took this plot and adapted it into many different versions. Paul Walker broke his leg during filming. Ouch. We have Badass W. Peter Iliff wrote Varsity Blues.
Please be okay, Lance. Oh, God.
So I said it comes in threes. The third one was She's All That, playing Dean Samsonite. Samsonite in 1999. And I was much more of an American Pie sort of guy than a Clueless or Varsity Blues or She's All That kind of guy. But they did come out during the same time and have a similar feel to the plots and similar cast and age.
We're talking about Taylor Vaughn here. Sorry, man, he's right. Of course I'm right. I mean, the girl's an institution in this place. Every girl wants to beat her, and every guy wants to nail her. Basically, she's you. With tits.
Freddie Prinze Jr. played Zach, and Paul played his friend. Well, kind of, because he wasn't very nice in this, Paul Walker. He was a jock, after all, so he wasn't very nice. But there's a strange connection in this film to Scooby-Doo, which is very weird because we mentioned Scooby-Doo earlier. But there's a connection with Scooby-Doo because of Freddie Prinze Jr. and Matthew Lillard. Freddie played Fred and Matthew Lillard played Shaggy in the live-action version. What's interesting is Paul Walker and Gabrielle Union were both pushing 27 when they made this, but they both look good enough to play, the younger lady and the younger man. But you find that with a lot of teen movies. You always get the guy or girl who's older playing the younger guy. Mad. A high school jock makes a bet that he can turn an unattractive girl into the school's prom queen. This plot from She's All That was taken and used in Not Another Teen Movie, starring Chris Evans. You may recognise that film. Friends and One Tree Hill writer Arlie Fleming Jr. wrote She's All That. And you know what? I think you probably would have guessed that, considering it suits him perfectly. He wrote Friends, One Tree Hill, and this. You'll actually recognise a lot of the cast, like Anna Paquin, Kieran Culkin, Usher. You may even remember more. So many in this cast. He played another Jason. His name was Jason. Jason in Broke Down Palace.
Caleb. Seems to be a little tension there between your father and the senator, huh?
Yeah, they were schoolmates.
Before playing Caleb Mandrake, the boxing prodigy come millennium. It could only be the Skulls, 2000. Plot is based upon some of the conspiracy theories surrounding Yale University's Skull and Bones Student Society. Now, you ladies and gay guys out there will enjoy the scenes of Paul Walker training in the boxing gym and other scenes where he's dressed to the nines, looking dapper as anything in his suits and stuff and looking good. The Fast and the Furious producer, John Pogue, wrote the Skulls, but we'll come to them in a minute. Good music in this, actually. Music from Creed. I do enjoy Creed, the music, but I actually prefer the solo work. Scott Stapp's solo work is very good. And Mark Tremonti's, the band Tremonti, is so good. So we got Creed, Fatboy Slim to Papa Roach in the Skulls. His most famous role in his whole career.
Brian Earl Spillner. Sounds like a serial killer name. Is that what you are?
No, man.
Don't come around here again.
Hey, man, you know this is bullshit.
You work for Harry, right?
Yeah, I just started.
You were just fired.
The Fast and the Furious, 2001, as Brian O'Connor, the LAPD officer who was undercover to locate the heist crew.
Get in!
This film is perfect for the car enthusiast, the petrol heads, to anyone looking for a thrill ride. O'Connor brings a modified 1995 Mitsubishi Eclipse to an illegal street race. Street racer Dominic Toretto drives a Mazda RX-7. Other cars include 1994's Toyota Supra and 1970's Dodge Charger. And there's many more where that come from when we go down the list of films. Rob Cohen was behind the first one. He had worked with Paul before. Development for The Fast and the Furious arose after Cohen read a Vibe magazine article in 1998 titled Racer X, which detailed the illegal street racing circuit operating within New York City. Great stuff. Vin Diesel. Michelle Rodriguez. Matt Schultz.
Ah, he's beautiful.
I like his haircut.
Ja Rule teamed up for the first installment. Paul Walker and Matt Schultz carefully choreographed the fight scene outside the grocery store. But when it came time to shoot, it didn't feel right. So in the end, they just improvised. And that usually works best if you want to get that raw feeling to a fight. Improvisation is better. Now, something that you may not know. Mark Wahlberg, Christian Bale and Eminem were all considered for the part of Brian O'Connor before Paul Walker was cast. Like I always say, can you imagine if Mark Wahlberg was Brian O'Connor, Christian Bale was Brian O'Connor, or Eminem? Before the first race, Leon states there is a 187 in Glendale. A 187 in Glendale. Glendale is the birthplace of Paul Walker, like we found out earlier. Joyride, 2001.
Rusty Nail, the truck driver, into thinking that he's going to be meeting up with this, this mystery girl, this voice that I've been doing on the CB radio. And he's thinking, all right, this is an opportunity to, to get some romance.
As Lewis Thomas, a college freshman embarking on a cross-country road trip during summer break to pick up his girlfriend, Venna.
Have an adventure.
No, the two of us.
You'd want that. Sexy choice. Vintage 1971.
Along for the ride is Lewis's brother, Fuller, played by Steve Zahn, a practical joker who uses the car's CB radio to play a cruel prank on a lonely trucker known only by the handle Rusty Nail. Rusty Spoons. The victim of Fuller's gag, a psychotic murderer, pursues them relentlessly to get revenge at any cost. The plot does sound like an urban legend, and it has this kind of Jeepers Creepers kind of feel to it as well in parts. The flick is also known as roadkill here where I'm from in the UK and in Australia as well. Australia. Don't be misled into thinking Joyride, because of its title, is like Fast and the Furious. It was released at the same time. It isn't like Fast and the Furious at all. It's a horror road crime movie. So yeah, don't be mistaken by that. Paul Walker was totally naked when he filmed his nude scene in Joyride. This film was actually written partly by J.J. Abrams, the main man behind Star Wars, Super 9, Lost, and Star Trek. Let's enjoy a part from the movie.
We had a little incident here last night. The victim was staying in room 17.
What happened to him?
Ripped his jaw clean off.
Next, he dipped into the realm of short films. 2002's Life Makes Sense If You're Famous as Mikey. 2003's music video Ludacris as Act the Fool, which it featured in Too Fast, Too Furious. We actually got a prelude to Too Fast, Too Furious. The turbocharged prelude. Before we actually got Too Fast, Too Furious 2003. For the return of Brian O'Connor. In this, he drives a 1999 Nissan Skyline R3 for GTR. And it's kind of the car that's linked to him very famously. Former cop Brian O'Connor is called upon to bust a dangerous criminal, and he recruits the help of a former childhood friend and street racer who has a chance to redeem himself.
He did the stare and drive on you, didn't he? He got that from me.
What's his deal?
It would be weird if you actually watched the Fast and the Furious films, from the later ones first and then the early ones, because they do change drastically, as we'll probably mention and discuss later on. The added cast from the first one was Tyrese Gibson. He joined Too Fast, Too Furious. Gotta love Tyrese Gibson. Oh, so funny. So good.
Hey man, I clean your windshield, buddy. What are you doing, man? Uno, tres, cuatro, foto, taco. Everything copacetic, homie. Me gusta chocha. Kiss my ass, putos.
He's also very famous on Social Network as well. Eva Mendes and Ludacris also joined Too Fast, Too Furious. What disappointed a few fans was there was no Groot in this one. There was no Vin Diesel in this one. So it's very different. But this also is reflected in 2006's Tokyo Drift, which didn't star Paul Walker. So there's a flip side on that one. Well, again, back to Too Fast, Too Furious. We had Boys in the Hood, Baby Boy, and Shaft guy John Singleton took the reins for the second in the franchise. The first car you see Paul Walker drive in the movie was in fact not his own racing car in real life. Instead, it belonged to technical advisor Craig Liberman, and was repainted for the movie. It's true Walker had a love for street racing, but did not personally handpick all the racing cars in the movie as often described. When Brian wins the first race, he power slides towards the crowd. Paul Walker actually performed this stunt himself among many others in the film and prequel, as he was a big fan of street racing, as we know, and a very, very, very good driver. Oh, that's just so... Can we just appreciate that, how good that is? I'm going to mention here, and it's probably peppered throughout the franchise really, but people always love the soundtrack to all the Fast and the Furious films. I particularly like Tokyo Drift soundtrack. That's my get-to. But Fast and the Furious has also got a really good soundtrack in it as well. You know, the rap and hip-hop that's layered throughout. What's also really nice is the chemistry between Walker and Tyrese is wonderful. The ending just really shows this. Just awesome chemistry. And the ending's pretty fun anyway, so we'll see that.
Open the garage together. A garage? How we gonna do that, bruh?
Pockets ain't empty, cuz.
And we ain't hungry no more either, bruh.
2003, Timeline, as Chris Johnston.
You know what the past is to me?
What? What's the past to you?
The past is why my parents split up. The past is basically what I've been force-fed ever since I was a little kid. I mean, none of you archaeologists looks to the future.
So in Timeline, he plays a character called Chris, who's infatuated with Kate. Kate is played by Frances O'Connor. But I always remember Frances from being in Bedazzled. She's the love interest in Bedazzled. But back to this film. A group of archaeologists become trapped in the past when they go there to retrieve a friend. The group must survive in 14th century France before they can escape back to the 21st century.
Yeah, I don't care about ITC's policies. I'm his son and I want to talk to him now.
Hello? Sure.
No, hey, you know what? I'm sick of this runaround. Now, either somebody tell me where Professor Johnson is or I'm going to have to report a kidnapping to the authorities. Have I made myself clear?
Time travel. Time travel. Yeah, I love me time travel, me. Based on the critically acclaimed novel by sci-fi writer Michael Crichton, and his book was called the same. Superman, 1978 director, Lethal Weapon director Richard Donner was behind the lens for Timeline. If you want to see Paul in an adventure movie where they have to go back into the past...
Isn't she beautiful?
She's a real knockout.
Funny. Now look, another thing, down here, they're holding hands. Now that's incredibly unusual for that.
Yeah, that is kind of unusual, huh?
There's romance in there too. This one should definitely tickle your pickle. If that doesn't sell a movie, the cast sure will. Gerard Butler.
I mean, what's the future, but just more of the same, you know? More bloody gadgets, more machines like that thing you rode up on. It's the past is where it's at.
Michael Sheen, Billy Connolly, Anna Friel, David Thewlis, David Thewlis to our Paul and Frances O'Connor. He then went Christmassy for the Christmas movie Noel, come 2004. Five New Yorkers come together on Christmas Eve seeking a miracle. So Nina, played by Penelope Cruz, and Mike Riley, played by Paul Walker, are a young couple on the verge of breaking up due to Mike's increasingly jealous behaviour. Actor Shaz Parliamentary starred and directed. We also had Big Susan Sarandon, and veteran actor Alan Arkin. This one will really, really make you want to watch it because you get to see Paul playing a policeman. So if you like a man in uniform, definitely check out Noel.
To a woman that I really love, and that woman was you. Stay away from me!
He went back into the sea, took a dip in there, like he did in his Disney film, for Into the Blue, 2005, tag teaming up with Jessica Alba.
We get the boat? I know how Daddy does it. We get the boat! We get the boat!
Paul Walker's famous abs are on display in this one, and they are some great abs. Yet Paul Walker was renowned for having stonewash abs. That's just a fact. So Paul Walker's own Chesapeake Bay Retriever, Boone, played his character's dog in the film. That's definitely worth a mention anyway. This is what makes Paul Walker so special. We mentioned earlier in the video that he was into UFC and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Walker also had an interest in marine biology and joined the board of directors of the Billfish Foundation in 2006. So he didn't just kick ass, he had a bloody good brain as well. So, always wonderful.
Oh, no way. That's a rock, honey. 3-minute breath hold and the guy comes up with a rock.
He dipped back into action crime drama this year too, 2006, in Running Scared. Critically acclaimed Running Scared, I should add. Joey Gazelle.
Listen, right now, that's not the fucking thing you want to do. You want to put down that fucking gun, and you want to walk away, because I swear to fucking God, I'll fucking kill you, stupid fucking pimp bitch.
Teaming up with Chaz Palminteri from Knoll, but this time he was directed by Wayne Kramer, who wrote Mindhunters. So completely different director, but he did tag team up with Chaz. A low-ranking thug is entrusted by his crime boss to dispose of a gun that killed corrupt cops, but things get out of control when the gun ends up in the wrong hands. Definitely worth a watch. You must watch this one. It's probably his second most famous role in his life. He was Joey Gazelle, a low-ranking mafiosa.
Fuck you, Tommy! You do this, Breaky! Don't you do it!
Disheartened by the film's low box office opening, Paul Walker returned home from dinner, only to discover that Quentin Tarantino had left a message on his machine, praising the film and Walker's performance. Walker was relieved and happy that someone like Tarantino had enjoyed the film. Now that is awesome. Absolutely awesome. You know, if you get a phone call from Quentin Tarantino and he gives you the big respect for the film, you know it's in an almighty film.
Fuck, I told you I didn't know anything, Breaky!
Aww. Paul Walker did his second Disney job. 8 Below. 8 Below. The same year he did a gangster movie. Would you believe? Brutal cold forces 2 Antarctic explorers to leave their team of sled dogs behind as they fend for their survival.
Ain't no brain, but we love him. That's Max. He's still in training. The granddaddy of the bunch, old Jack.
Pinned as the most amazing story of survival, friendship, and adventure ever told. So in 8 Below, there are 2 Alaskan Malamutes, Buck and Shadow, and 6 Siberian Huskies. Max, Maya, Truman, Dewey, Shorty, and old Jack. Each actor dog had help from other dogs that performed stunts and pulled sleds. That's just made my day, that. We had those doggos in the picture alongside Bruce Greenwood, Jason Biggs, and Paul Walker, who played Jerry Shepard. In 1993, Jerry Shepard is a guide at an Antarctica research base under contract with the National Science Foundation, which is very interesting because we mentioned the marine biology thing before. The ending will probably make you cry. No, it will make you cry. It definitely will. My only bugbear with the movie is Paul wearing Canada Goose. Canada Goose, a disgusting company renowned for its animal abuse from wild coyotes. Wild coyotes are just dogs, essentially, like the ones in the film. And the goose down Lovely geese killed and wild coyotes killed for the lining and the fur trim of these horrific jackets that Canada Goose sell. So I think it's quite ironic that a film about dogs would use Canada Goose, a business notorious for using wild coyote fur. So I think that's just strange. Director Frank Marshall, who did Curious Case of Benjamin Button, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and Signs. He produced Signs. Now, 8 Below is based on a true story, so that should give you an uplift. It really should.
Go on! Shoot!
He then went into a war epic, Flags of Our Fathers, 2006. Director Clint Eastwood. The life stories of the 6 men who raised the flag at the Battle of Iwo Jima, a turning point in World War II. He was Hank Hansen. Ooh, another Hansen. Yep, so we had Jesse Hansen in The Boys Are Back, 1984. Now, Hank Hansen. Hank Hansen, the platoon under command of Sergeant Hank Hansen. Reaches the top of Mount Suribachi and hoists the United States flag to cheers from the beaches and the ships. So he was a real-life man, a United States Marine Corps sergeant. Here's a spoiler warning, spoiler. He was killed in action during the Battle of Iwo Jima in World War II. Walker as a soldier alongside Adam Beach, Ryan Philippe and Jamie Bell to Robert Patrick. Now in 2007, the short he did, as Mikey, in the segment Life Makes Sense If You're Famous, it was in Stories USA. Tim Kearney in The Death and Life of Bobby Z, also known as just Bobby Z, 2007.
I am Bobby Z.
A DEA agent provides a former Marine, Tim Kearney, with a way out of his prison sentence. Impersonate Bobby Z, a recently deceased drug dealer in hostage switch with a crime lord. Walker and Lawrence Fishburne together in this. It's action-fueled, it's suspense-ridden, it's a heavyweight movie.
Basically, he assumes the identity of this guy who's the biggest drug dealer in Southern California. Right into it, knowing damn well the chances are he's not going to come out with his life, but if he does, he's scot-free, so.
To live a life of his own, he has to die first. Now, if you fancy the girl from House, Olivia Wilde, you'll like this one because she stars in it and she gets a bit hot under the collar with Paul in the picture. So there's that. Paul Walker had long hair for a few scenes, and you know what? He really, really suited it. Yeah, him with long hair has this look of Chris Hemsworth. Actually, now I mention it, there's definitely a likeness to Paul Walker and Chris Hemsworth. I don't care what you say, especially when he's got long hair. The Lazarus Project, 2008. Lazarus is a given name and surname. It is derived from the Hebrew Al-Azar, meaning God has helped. It also reminds me of a Doctor Who episode called The Lazarus Experiment. Not The Lazarus Project, The Lazarus Experiment, starring Mark Gatiss as an old man who makes a machine to turn him young again. Yeah, good episode. But back to the 2008 film. So as Ben Garvey, an ex-con who gets a second chance at life and begins work at a psychiatric hospital. Paul Walker was the first choice for the lead role in the film, and it's always nice to see a film where they say he was the first choice. I like that. Throughout the film, you can hear the actual movie score from the movie The Skulls, which Paul Walker also stars in as Caleb Mandrake. Before Fast and the Furious. Fast and Furious, 2009, alternatively known as The Fast and the Furious 4, or Fast and Furious 4, to get rid of any confusion, because there's a lot of confusion with these films and their order. Brian O'Connor, back working for the FBI in LA, teams up with Dominic Toretto to bring down a heroin importer by infiltrating his operation.
Don't drop me, that's all I know.
Bring him up.
You here to take me in, O'Connor?
Oh yeah, you know what to expect. Justin Lin took the reins as director. Jordana Brewster, Sung Kang, was added into the cast. Now it's time to confuse you. Fast and the Furious, this film, marked the first film in the series since the original installment to feature the main cast. As a result, this spawned a shift within the series' chronological order, with developers setting Fast and Furious between the second and third installments to account for their absences. And oh no, I've gone cross-eyed. Yep, very confusing. At this time, I urge you to check out www.carthrottle. They posted all of Walker's cars in the franchise, including the fourth installment in 2009. Give that definitely a look if you're a petrol head. This also brings me on to Brian O'Donnell's quotes. Yeah, definitely check out Brian O'Connor's quotes from the film. Loads of really good ones.
But he was my friend too.
You weren't anyone's friend.
Yo, can you guys talk about this later and pull my ass up?
She was running for this guy Braga and things went bad.
Please.
I'm gonna get these guys, Dom. Now let me do my job and bring them up.
Paul Walker's character, Brian O'Connor, used to be blonde, yet Paul Walker switched from natural blonde to brunette in real life after Timeline 2003. The script for the film offers no explanation as to why Brian is brunette now. I thought you needed to know that. You've got to know that the hair colour change. Blondes have more fun, so he let himself down there.
Connor, do you know the difference between a cop and a criminal?
What?
One bad judgment call.
Oh, this is really sweet. This is really sweet. He fulfilled a lifelong dream by starring in a National Geographic Channel series, Expedition Great White.
I'm Paul Walker, and we're here on the big island of Hawaii to meet one of the coolest guys on the planet. Another man of action, marine ecologist Enrique Sala.
Later retitled as Sharkmen, which premiered in June 2010.
Enrique is on a global mission to find and identify the most pristine ocean environments on the planet.
Speaking of 2010, Takers. It was actually first known as Bone Deep, which is weird. I'm glad it stayed with Takers, to be honest. A film perfect for Walker, as you'll see. A group of bank robbers find their multi-million-dollar plan interrupted by a hard-boiled detective. He was John Rawe.
You win big.
Part of the crew. So you see where there's a link between this film and Fast and the Furious because of the elements of the crew. It's a strange cast in this, honestly. When I was watching the film, I had to pull my brother in and say, this is a weird cast. We have Chris Brown, who's a singer, Chris Brown. We have Star Wars' Hayden Christensen, Idris Elba, Matt Dillon, and Paul Walker, and including Zoe Saldana as well in the mix. Just mad cast. It's a cat and mouse game type of film.
We take.
Guys walking away from explosions, you know, that type of film we love. Paul Walker in a fancy suit. It has everything.
Once in a lifetime job. 25, 30 mil.
The first and last exchange between Idris Elba's character and Paul Walker's character are exactly the same, albeit the lines are switched the second time around. The characters of John, played by Paul Walker, and Attica brothers, played by Chris Brown and Michael Ealy, are all named after prisoners. Ah, so Rawe is a prisoner's name as well. That's not Paul Walker walking nude into a swimming pool at the start of the film, but Trevor Donovan as his body double. Which is mad, because we did find out that he did appear nude in Joyride, but didn't appear nude in this one. Director John Lusenhop, who made Texas Chainsaw 3D.
What's this crazy son of a bitch doing? Hey!
You just jacked the guard.
Open this door!
We got a vehicle up, people.
We in the truck.
Ooh, hello. Fast 5, 2011. The boys are back. Big Dom, Dominic Toretto,
Home sweet home.
and his crew of street racers plan a massive heist to buy their freedom while in the sights of a powerful Brazilian drug lord and a dangerous federal agent. Added cast: Dwayne Johnson. I just got 2 words for you. Train heist.
Brian and Dom, it's not much unlike, Vin and I, where, we get along, and I think there's like a mutual kind of respect and kind of fascination with one another, just as there is with Brian and Dom. Everyone has played a major part, and everyone has contributed a whole hell of a lot to this franchise that's been involved in it.
The action, the thrills, acting, the comedy, a fantastic franchise. Fantastic. You gotta love it, you gotta love Fast 5. 2 years after Fast 5, Walker produced some stuff. Pawn Shop Chronicles, Hours, and Vehicle 19 we'll get into now. Vehicle 19, 2013, was his standalone movie, Vehicle. Hey, if you pardon the pun. In Johannesburg, South Africa, an American parole breaker unknowingly picks up a rental car that will tie him to a web of corrupt local police. That does sound like an episode of Forensic Files. I'm mad on Forensic Files. I think I've watched about 200 episodes. Love me Forensic Files. He was Michael Woods. On the inside of Paul Walker's wrist, you can see his daughter's name, Meadow, tattooed there. No makeup was used to cover it up, and I'm glad about that actually. It's really sweet. It is an interesting film. The entire movie is actually shot from the perspective of inside the vehicle. The camera never leaves the vehicle at all. Only the final scene when the camera zooms out to an overhead shot of the minivan parked in the car lot does the camera move outside. So I love takes like that on a film when the director can be so ballsy to do stuff like that. It's very admirable.
You gonna take me? You crazy?
Hours, he played Nolan Hayes. The plot definitely spoke to Paul. A father struggles to keep his infant daughter alive in the wake of Hurricane Katrina. 2 things. Firstly, we have an infant daughter, relatable as he had his daughter. He was 15 at the time, so wasn't infant, but she was 15 at the time of release in 2013, Meadow Rain Walker. Secondly, Hurricane Katrina. Hurricane Katrina was a Category 5 hurricane that made landfall on Florida and Louisiana in August 2005, causing catastrophic damage, particularly in the city of New Orleans and the surrounding areas. Subsequent flooding ensued. You may remember the news report that shook the world. You may even remember Kanye West, his Hurricane Katrina rant too. It's an emotional rollercoaster from start to finish, this one called Hours. People have spoke about Paul being at his best here, as being at his very, very best. Walker's performance, along with the film, gets more and more engrossing as the movie progresses. It was very much a Walker-led picture. One of Paul Walker's last movies. He passed away 2 weeks before this movie was released in the USA, which is really sad. This was Eric Hayes' directorial debut, Hours. He since wrote Arrival and the famous Bird Box, which is available on Netflix. Every second counts in this hour.
I'm at St. Mary's Hospital. I got a baby I need to rescue. What?
Fast and the Furious 6, 2013. Hobbs and Dom and Brian reassemble their crew to take down a team of mercenaries. So you know what to expect. It's going to be badass. It's going to be everything going on here. Justin Lin directed. He was partly the main director until they switched again. And let's just watch it. Let's just sit back and watch a bit of Fast 6. Following Paul Walker's death on November the 30th, 2013. Universal announced that a portion of the profits from the film's North American Blu-ray and DVD sales would be donated to Walker's charity Reach Out Worldwide. And at this time, I must plug Paul Walker's charity Reach Out Worldwide. We had an added cast of Luke Evans. We've got everything. We've got cars, girls, explosions, better cars, faster cars. We got family. We got that family. We got brotherhood. We got friendship. We got villains. We got guns. We got a lot of guns. We got comedy. Yeah, got to have the comedy in there as well, especially with Tyrese in it. You know there's going to be comedy. I think it's one of the best F&F movies, and that's not because some bits were filmed in England. No, honestly. But it does give it a bit more love for me because it's just a well-made picture. I'm just really happy it was shot in England. It was actually shot locally as well for a tiny bit. It was shot in Liverpool Tunnel. Paul appeared as Brian from Fast and the Furious on Conan 2013. You gotta love funny man Conan. Episode The Very Understated Adventures of Captain Beige. The Very Understated Adventures of Captain Beige. Their spoof of Fast and the Furious, the safe and the courteous. The last project Paul Walker produced was Pawn Shop Chronicles 2013, an anthology of stories involving meth-addicted white supremacists, a man looking for his kidnapped wife, and an Elvis impersonator.
Well, the king and the king, KKK, all the way.
You can catch Ricky this weekend.
Yep, an anthology of an ensemble cast led by Paul Walker as Raw Dog. Yeah, and he's very different in this, what we're used to. You know, his dishevelled look. You know, he's got the Styx t-shirt on. He's a big Styx fan. He's a white supremacist. You know, he's got a beard. He's all gaunt looking. And there's a clip it's just a fun ride. If you pardon the pun again, I'm sorry. He even drives a car which wouldn't look out of place in Fast and the Furious, to be honest. It was the last film starring Paul Walker to be released before his tragic death. Wayne Kramer was back behind the lens. He made Running Scared, featuring Walker. And what a cast. Brendan Fraser played Ricky the Elvis impersonator. Elijah Wood, Matt Dillon was back with Paul Walker. Norman Reedus from The Walking Dead. Thomas Jane from The Mist. Yeah, and there's a really funny scene I have to plug, is the clown mask part.
What is that? Are you scared, class? No. No, babe, no. Get us all that you got cooked up.
His second to last picture, he was an undercover cop, Damien Collier. Harkening back to his early days of Fast and the Furious, 2001, as an undercover cop. He's also played undercover cop in Running Scared, 2006. So he does love that role. But this time it's in Brick Mansions, 2014. Doing what he does best. Action, crime.
Who's my father? Let's go make him pay.
An undercover Detroit cop navigates a dangerous neighbourhood that's surrounded by a containment wall with the help of an ex-con in order to bring down a crime lord and his plot to devastate the entire city. There's a nod to Paul Walker's Fast and the Furious character when he's seen driving the Mustang and he performs drifting manoeuvres in the dirt. Still annoys me that he wasn't in Tokyo Drift. Luck wrote Brick Mansions. He is known for Lucy, Leon, The Professional, and The Fifth Element. So he has a lot of film credit to his name.
Really bad idea.
It's a muscle-headed action, parkour, gun-blazing, backflipping, fight-scened type of film. Furious 7, 2015, was completed by using his brothers, Caleb and Cody, as his body doubles and stand-ins and CGI. And it was released in April 2015, 2 years prior to Paul Walker's death.
It's never goodbye.
The big song was released that shook everyone to the core. The scene between Dom, Vin Diesel, and Brian Paul Walker going both their separate ways. And yeah, it was just gorgeous, wasn't it? Wiz Khalifa, See You Again, featuring Charlie Puth.
It's been a long day without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. We've come a long way from where we began. Oh, I'll tell you all about it when I see you again.
Deckard Shaw seeks revenge against Dom and his family for his comatose brother. Deckard Shaw, played by Jason Statham, who's added to the cast alongside other heavy hitters like Kurt Russell and Ronda Rousey. Yeah, UFC chick turned wrestler Ronda Rousey. Horror icon James Wan took control of Furious 7. Some of Paul Walker's dialogue and footage was taken from the previous Fast and the Furious films in this one. Over 230 cars, that's 230 cars, were destroyed during the filming of this movie alone. The song at the end, See You Again, by Wiz Khalifa and Charlie Puth, is dedicated to Paul Walker. It received 1 billion views on YouTube in 2015, and in July 2017, it went on to become the most viewed video on YouTube at almost 2.9 billion views. So Brian's son in the film, is seen playing with a toy car that's a replica of the Nissan GTR, the same one he's known for driving throughout the franchise. And I think that's really sad and really nice as well at the same time. Now, since Furious 7, there's been The Fate of the Furious 2017, Hobbs & Shaw 2019, are expecting a 9th installment in 2020 and a 10th installment in 2021. So is this train ain't going to stop yet. Paul Walker will be missed in them movies that will be released. So rest in peace with regards to that, Paul Walker, and I'm sure there'll be a reference in the films. Walker was also set to play Agent 47 in the video game adaptation Hitman, Agent 47, but died before production began. The way computer graphics are going now, where they take the actor's real face and make a computer animated version and add the voice, we can only imagine what it would have looked like. Who knows, eh? Who knows what it would have sounded like or looked like. If you have enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe, like and comment. Check out my Facebook page, facebook.com/RichardAlsRadioShow for more videos and radio shows. For radio shows in particular, go to my Mixcloud, mixcloud.com/Richard-Isles for them. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for watching. Thank you so much.